of World Bigfoot Radio. I'd like to say that it is my ultimate pleasure to have today's guest with me for episode number 12. This will be part one because he's got a bunch of stuff to talk about and it's going to take more than one episode. So this will be 12A here, and I'm very pleased that I've actually got somebody else that's survived an encounter with a Type 4 and is willing to come forward and talk about it. And so at this time, I'd like to welcome to World Bigfoot Radio, Mr. Lynn Poole. Welcome aboard, Lynn.
Hey, Duke, how's it going today?
Oh, man, I'm hoping that it's going to work this time. As you well know, we've been having all kinds of technical problems here trying to record this, and I think we maybe got it this time, so let's keep our fingers crossed. And, I got to tell you, folks, we already tried to record everything, both episodes, basically, both parts A and B. And the recorder crashed right at the very end of it and didn't save anything. So we're sort of doing it over again, and we're going to do it in two parts just to be on the safe side. So this is part A here. And we're specifically talking tonight about the early part of Lynn's experiences with Bigfoot and his life in general, and his first and second encounters, both of which happened down in the far, far south mountain country of Tennessee. And do you want to fill us in a little bit about your background, what the area around where you lived was like, Lynn?
Okay. Now, I was born in a small town in Tennessee, and when I was growing up, it was a town of about 500 people. It's much larger now. One of my cousins made it big in country music, and there was a whole bunch of people moved there to be where he's from. He gets me. But we had a very large farm, and I spent my summers working on the farm there. I lived there till I was about 10, and then my dad moved us up to Indianapolis when he went to work at Allison's, but I still went back and spent summers down with my grandparents there at the farm. And we had cows and a couple of mules and some horses, and raised tobacco and corn and alfalfa hay, and of course the vegetables and stuff, and had apple trees and pear trees and peach trees and all kinds of good stuff like that.
So just to give everybody the proper idea here on about how small this farm was, how many acres did you have under cultivation?
We had 50,000 in corn, 50,000 in tobacco, 20,000 in alfalfa hay, and then there was 16,040 acres that the houses and our garden, as Granddaddy called it, was on. And
okay, so just to give everybody the right idea here, we're talking about huge area, and you had a couple other neighbors that had similarly giant farms, right?
Yep. There was 3 major families in the town, and that was us, the Pooles, the Freemans, and the Moneys. And the Freemans actually had 2 farms. It's like the original Freemans kids took and bought another farm, and all of them were in excess of like 150,000 acres.
Wow.
And the Freemans grew strawberries, and the Moneys grew watermelons.
Well, it sounds like you just had all kinds of stuff available for local critters to go poach off of those giant acres of land and eat if they wanted to.
I don't ever remember much about animals really bothering the farm, the vegetables much.
Well, with that much, you could have herds of deer munching on them, and you'd never even notice it.
Yeah. But it's like, the small part of the garden that was behind Granddaddy's house. Of course, he got mad because I was the yo-yo that could feed the deer out of his hand. And he got mad at me for that, but they'd eat apples and stuff out of my hand. And of course, we let them have the apples and stuff that fell on the ground. But I don't ever remember them getting in the gardens, getting any, into any of the carrots or tomatoes or beans or anything like that.
Yeah, they were probably over in the cornfield all the time. Why waste your time with that?
I don't. Around the cornfield, there was only one little strip, or well, I've put it the one of the cornfields. There was only one little strip of woods, and around the other one there was none. And it was more like there was just a band of trees that was maybe like 10 feet wide that ran down the property line between us and the original Freeman farm.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't
But
have a whole lot of big, gigantic chunks of forest around there, although there were some.
yeah, we had three different places that had woods, and there was one that was about 40 acres that we never hunted. We were always told to stay out of. And the other one was right there beside Granddaddy's house, and it wasn't real big, but I don't remember the acreage on it. And that's where we usually went hunted squirrels and stuff. And didn't bother the deer there because that's the one that was right by the house that they were all used to us and would walk up and eat out of me and the other kids' hand. If we went deer hunting, we went down to the other woods.
So now that Forbidden 40 you're talking about, was it Grandpa that told you not to go there, or was it just like general knowledge?
It was pretty much all the kids were told from, as far as I know, were told pretty much from the time you're big enough to get out and walk around a little bit on your own, as you don't go there.
Oh. So
And
not just your family, but all the local kids sort of had this don't go there thing.
yeah, it's pretty much, that wasn't close to any of the main road. It wasn't close to any main road or anything. It's like if you didn't have a reason for driving down our gravel road, of course, it cut through to another road, and some people used it to cut through going to another place down the road. But it wasn't like there was people going to be driving by it all the time or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's
when at the point where you went deer hunting or whatever, where would you guys actually go? I mean, there must have been deer around there. You saw deer around there, right?
Oh yeah, or around that woods.
Well, I mean, just around your area in general. Around that 40, yeah. Was there any deer around there?
Deer wouldn't go in that woods. If there was deer, we had alfalfa that was in front of that woods.
Right.
And to be honest, I always felt really uncomfortable going around that woods. So there wasn't no problem with of us kids going there because all of us felt uncomfortable around it. But yeah, if there was deer out in the alfalfa out there, if you spooked them, they didn't run for the woods. They ran for the road.
Wow.
And into the cornfield on the other side. The deer didn't go in that woods.
That's pretty spooky, actually.
Yeah. I don't, one of my granddad's sisters got married, and they built a house beside that wood. But everybody tell them no, build a house up by the other ones. They're like, no, we want to go over there by the tree, basically, or something. And they built a house there, and they didn't stay there but about 2 years, and they moved out and let the house vacant and come back to the main house. And where Grandpa or my great grandparents, Pa and Ma, lived, their house.
Did they ever say anything about why they just vacated the house after they were so dead set on building it there in the first place?
Not that I remember, at least not to any of us kids.
Yeah, I suppose they wouldn't tell the kids. They might talk to the adults about it.
Yeah, it's like my grandma took us when we walked down there to visit them one day, and it's like when we walked down there, when we got onto the drive going up to the house and everything, it was still probably like a quarter mile down that, gravel driveway to get to the house. It's like Grandma made us walk on the far side of the road from that woods.
Wow.
But like I said, I know that every time we went over their house or anything, if we played outside, it was in the front yard right by the house. That woods always made us uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were always told don't go there. We didn't have a problem with not going there, but we didn't like being around it.
Fortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so really weird feeling.
Did you ever?
I don't ever remember when we was down there visiting and ever hearing any squirrels or anything like that around the woods. You know, birds up in the trees maybe, but I don't remember hearing squirrels barking or anything like that around them woods that I can think of.
Oh. Did you ever remember hearing anything weird at night or having anything strange happen here at night?
Yeah, when we were kids, we were always told, you know, it's dark. You know, you don't go out when it's dark. The Hank will get you. We wanted to play outside. We had to be in, you know, out in front of the house where the porch light was on, which was on all night. And as we got older, that kind of started wearing off. We're kind of like, yeah.
Like,
you know,
they're just making up boogeyman stories to keep us near the house.
Yeah. And we started getting where we were a little braver and going out and like the side of the house where it was dark and stuff. And till one night, we were goofing around, me and my cousin, I'll call him Mike, went around to the side of the house, and I think we were playing tag or something or another. We were around the side of the house, and we were always told the Hank will get you with it. You know, it's got big glowing red eyes and blah blah blah. And we went around the house and the side of the house and everything. And I sort of stopped and looked up because I seen something red, and I looked above these really tall weeds. They were probably about 10 feet tall or something. And there was these two red eyes over the top of those weeds, and I sort of like, it's time for us to go back to the house. I grabbed him and we went and got his sister, and we went in the house. And kind of forgot about it later, but there for a long time after that, we didn't go out of the light again for a bit. But pretty much, other than that, really did anything. I know we were up at the Ma and Pa's. Uncle Allison still lived there, and we were up there, and the cows always came in the night, went in the barn by themselves. You just went and shut the door behind them. We had pigs and you know, a bunch of hogs and stuff too. Now they had a shed that they could go in. It was, you know, there wasn't a door on it or anything to get out of weather. We had a couple of mules and some draft horses, not riding horses, and they had a barn to go in that didn't have a door. They come and went as they went. But we were up there going to spend the night with Mom and Pa, and the mules and the horses started going crazy and running around and everything. And Uncle Allison grabbed his 30-30 and went outside, and everything calmed down. I don't think he ever seen anything. He didn't shoot at nothing, but that was kind of weird. But I don't really remember a whole lot of weird things happening down there. We had 40 cows, and a strange thing to us, we had 40 cows we milked every day, but we didn't sell the milk, we didn't drink the milk. We poured it to the hogs. Never quite understood that. But it's like they got milked in the morning before they were let out of the barn, and then the barn door was open, they went out, and then they'd come back in the evening on their own to be milked and go in the barn.
Well, it sounds like you had some kind of suspicious stuff going on there. That whole Forbidden 40 area sounds pretty creepy to me. And I know the area that figures into the next story here is actually like a sportsman's club. Is that the same area, or is it near it?
That's up by, there was Portland Lake and then the Sportsman's Lake. They were way outside of town. It takes like 20 minutes from Granddaddy's house, takes like 20 minutes to drive out there. But there was a Sportsman's Lake, which I think was a man-made lake, and then you had Portland Lake that was on the other side of a gravel road. That's where they got the city water from. And the Sportsman Lake was a private club, and I went to school with the kids that were the kids of the caretaker. They lived out there, and we spent, we go over there and stay overnight and stuff sometimes there at the Sportsman Lake. And, they had 3 fish raising ponds. There's trout and largemouth bass and catfish that they grew to stock the fishermen's or the Sportsman Lake with, feed them and play around. And they had one of the great big lights outside on a pole beside the house. But it's like when we're over there, it's dark, you come in the house and doors gets locked, blah, 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 when we were there. Never really thought much about that. And there was caves around there too. And of course, I've loved caves since I was little and was in National Cave Rescue, a member of the National Speleological Society. And
how old were you when you started doing all that?
Well, when I actually started going in caves, I was probably 5 or 6.
Wow.
But I joined the NSS. Actually, I was up here in Indiana after I got out of school and everything, and I'm like, well, hey, I'm going to join that and start going caving again. But yeah, there was caves around the 2 lakes, and actually, I think probably at one time they were all probably the same cave, and it's, stuff fell in where rock was there and broke them up, because there was a stream that ran through all of them. But there was one cave that was really big, and I was actually a teenager when we went there the first time, was going to go in, and went to go in. I'm looking at it, and it's, we're talking an entrance. It's probably 100 feet wide, and the roof is 170 or about 70 feet up.
Whoa.
And you're looking at this monster room, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I took like one step, like to go in, and then I had the awfulest feeling that, I don't want to go in there.
Wow.
And when I caught a bad vibe and said I'm not going in, it's like it stopped Mickey and what do I call her? Because I know she won't me tells about her either. We'll call her Sharon. That stopped all of us from going in. We're like, no. And we went and played in one of the other caves. And all the time I've been caving, and it's the only cave I ever wanted to go in that I didn't go in. And it's the only cave I've ever went in that I guess you'd basically say scared me.
Yeah.
I've never been in another one that's, that give me any kind of feeling. I've been in some where, get a little nervous, like you're going across the ledge and there's a pit below you or something, but nothing scary.
Not like you're just standing at the entrance looking in going, whoa, I don't want to go in this one.
Yep. Nope. That's the only time I've ever done that.
Well, I can't say that I've had anywhere near your experience of being in undergrounds and stuff, because I haven't, but I've done quite a bit of caving. And I've also been in a lot of man-made undergrounds, and some real interesting ones. We found an underground lake in one of them. But I've only ever one time had that happen to me, and it was one of those things where I was just out in the woods, and there was this rocky talus slope, and there was this big crack in between the rocks. And I went, wow, that's like enough space for a bear to den up or something. It was the middle of the summer, and there was this weird smell coming out of there. And I just went, I'm not going near that one. And for me, that was out of character, because usually, like, I'd stick a light in there and take a look or something. I would just, like, not even go near it. But it was, I can totally relate, because that little dinky cave that I was looking at, that crack in the rock, it was giving me the creeps, and there was a weird stink coming out of it, too. So I was like, no, not looking.
Yeah. But
a big one like that, man, if you got the heebie-jeebies on that, anything could be in there. A cave that big, an elephant could be in there. Anything could have gotten a cave that size.
No, that main room that was right there at the entrance, hell, Barnum and Bailey could set up the circus in it. I mean, it was
That's what I'm
huge.
saying. That's why if you get the creeps walking in to an area that's like the size of a, Coliseum or something, there's something really wrong with that. There was
Yeah,
definitely a reason.
I don't know what it was, but something definitely give me the no, I ain't going there. I've got pretty good gut instinct, and 8 times out of 10, it's right.
Yeah.
Every time I've kind of went against it, I usually get bit in the butt somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, gut instinct is pretty accurate a lot of the time. Especially in those wilderness life and death situations. If your gut tells you to do something, you better listen.
Yep. But
So anyway, from the time you were little and you saw the twin glowing orbs above the 10-foot tall weeds out in the backyard, there really wasn't that much that would have made you think there was anything really around the area. And I suppose when you're a
Nope.
kid and you see something like that, it doesn't take you very long to kind of forget about it and sort of put it in the back of your mind anyway.
Yeah, like I said, when I saw that, it's kind of like them telling us the haint's got glowing red eyes and it'll get you if you go out in the dark.
Right.
That popped in my head, and we went back to the house, and like I said, shortly after, forgot. Out.
How old were you then?
I think I was probably 8 or so when that.
Yeah, I could see something like that not making too much of an impression.
Yeah.
Even if something that was very scary, still you could forget about it.
Yeah. I just remember it gave me a really bad feeling, and I grabbed him, and we went and got Sharon, and we was in the house.
Well, I'm glad you had the sense to do that.
Yeah. But it's like I said, we started hunting and all. I got my first rifle at 3. We got 22 single shots per squirrel and rabbit hunting, and then we got a little bit older, go hunting deer. We'd use one of the shotguns to go for deer, or 30-30s. But we grew up with guns, and then as I got older, I started becoming a collector, and everybody said, "Oh, he's a gun nut," because I had so many. We had our 22s, and when we was little, of course, we're talking back in the 60s. We could jump on our bikes and ride down to the 5 and dime, and it was like either a nickel or 10 cents for a box of 22 shells. And it's like we got a Granddaddy give us a quarter, and usually Pod give us a quarter every week. And for those 2 quarters, we could go to the store. They give them to us when we're going to the grocery store and stuff. And for that, we get lots of 22s to plink with during the afternoons and stuff. Plus, have a bag of candy to last all week.
Like when I was doing at that age, brother, same thing. I had my Ruger 1022, and let's go get a box of shells and go shoot tin cans and eat candy all afternoon. It's all like the same thing.
Yeah, candy and gum and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had fun. Going fishing, all that kind of stuff. Grew up pretty much outdoorsy. And then
you weren't like some kid that had never been in the woods and didn't know anything about animals or anything like that. You were very well acquainted with it.
Oh yeah, we had a gentleman that worked for us who was full-blooded Cherokee, and he taught us tracking. Of course, Michael didn't take to it very good. He liked to go shooting and stuff and hunt a little bit, but for some reason, he didn't really seem to catch on to tracking that much. Me, I took to it pretty good. My mom used to say I could track an Eskimo through a snowstorm, but I don't think I was quite that good. But yeah, and down there, we didn't have to worry about bears. Seen a cougar a couple of times. We had bobcats and stuff like that. There
See,
wasn't no
this
coyotes.
was, you're talking when we're getting up close to your encounter now, so like late
Yep.
70s, 77?
76.
76, okay.
Yeah, like I said, Michael and them's, my cousin's dad and their mom got divorced when he was like 2, I think, or maybe it was 3, something like that. Well, their mom moved away, and they hadn't seen her since they were very, very small. They really didn't remember her much, and we found out. My mom and them found out that she was up here in Indianapolis, and I got my driver's license when I was 16, and one of my mom's friends gave me a 1968 Dodge Dart when they bought a new car.
Woohoo!
And turns
For those
out
of you
they
who
did
don't
not.
know what that car is, that's a cool car.
Yep. And it turns out they didn't know how to take care of cars really well. They never changed the oil in it and everything.
Oh my God.
So it's like when they gave it to me, we actually ended up paying $10 for the car, I think it was, or something, because when we went in and went to go transfer title and everything on it, we told them it was a gift, and they were going to charge like $150 gift tax or something or another. So it's like, no, we'll come back. We come back with Nancy, and she sold it to me for like $10, so I had to pay like 50 cents sales tax.
Yeah, I remember when we used to have to go through that hokey do too. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's like the first thing I did when I got it was I changed the oil in it and blah blah blah, and started fix it up. Turns out that they'd never changed the oil, and they'd been using cheap oil. When I put good oil in it, it started cutting all that stuff out of it, and the engine went out of it. But when I got it set, I was like a 1/4 inch short of maximum height, and it put the deck of the trunk lid 47 inches off the ground.
So the trunk lid is basically 4 feet off the ground at that point, just shy of it.
Yep, almost 4 feet.
Okay.
And so yeah, I had it all done, and Mike and them come up, and we introduced them to Aunt Millie, their mom, and run around up here for the first 6 weeks of, it's about, what is it, a month or 6 weeks, and then I drove them back down to spend the rest of the summer down at Granddaddy's, and was down there. We were running around and all having fun, and then one night we were going out, which this was, I think it was around like 4th of July weekend when I took them back. But we were out running around. Granddaddy and them told us, well, you got to be in by such and such time, which, and they told us
like a curfew, but he didn't like tell you any particular place you couldn't go, or
no. He, it's like he knew we was going to go out roaming around,
right?
And he told us, he says, y'all don't go down there to the lake at night. You hear me? You don't go down there at the lake at night. But as during, we didn't go out by the lake at night. But we went into, there's a place down there that's called the Panther Den. It's across the street from the high school. And it was like the kids hang out. And they had ice cream and shakes and burgers and fries and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit like a Dairy Queen, but not a Dairy Queen. But then some guy opened a Dairy Queen on the other side of town from the Panther Den. But that's where the kids went and hanged out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was open until like 10 or 11 at night on through the summer. But we went down there, and Mickey had a girl that he was I guess you'd say dating, and Sharon had the guy she was dating, and I ran into a girl that I went to school with. So we was all out running around together, and we're going to go out for a drive. And I let them talk me out to going out to the lake. I had a bad feeling about going there to begin with because I was told I wasn't supposed to, so I was already a little bit uneasy about being out there.
I mean, when you say the lake, you mean Portland Lake or Sportsman's Lake?
Yeah, the Portland Lake.
Okay.
They were literally side by side, really.
Yeah.
It's like on one side of the road was the Sportsman's Club, and they had, they kept the grass and stuff mowed down. The other side belonged to the city.
Okay.
And
so the Sportsman's Club on one side and the city side, Portland Lake side on the other side.
Yep. And they had just re-graveled the road that spring. Had this bright white, brand new crushed limestone down on the road. And it just like it glowed down through there. But we went down there, and right there at the pump house and all, they had, pole with a light on it. Went down there and pulled around, turned around. When I pulled in, the park just swung around where it was kind of halfway pointing out. Was actually the car was pointed toward the lake, and we're all out of the car, and the girl I was talking to was sitting on the hood talking to me. And
I got a question for you. How big is the between the parking lot that you're in and like the area that's cleared around that and the pump house? How far is it to tree lines and down to the lake from where you guys are at?
Well, from where I parked, it was probably only 30 feet from the lake.
That ain't very far. Okay.
Yeah. But to the closest trees, probably close to 100 yards.
So quite a big opening there, quite a big clearing.
Yeah, it's like there wasn't any trees real close to the road, and where the parking was at there beside the pump house was. You could probably park a dozen cars there pretty easy.
Okay.
It wasn't real big, but
right.
Like I said, we're all there. My cousins and theirs is on the other side of the car, and I'm on the driver's side, and the girl I'm with is sitting on the hood, and I'm just kind of leaned up against the car talking. And we hadn't been there very long. And I'd been real uneasy ever since I got out of the car. I mean, really uneasy. And I kept just putting it off because, thinking, yeah, I'm just really nervous because I'm doing something Granddaddy told us not to. I'm doing something I shouldn't be.
Yeah, like you think you're feeling guilty.
Yeah. And all at once, she says, "What's that over there?" And I said, "What?" And she took and pointed, and I turned around and looked, and there was a big tree over there. I don't remember. I think it was a walnut tree, because I know I'd been up in that tree because the lowest branch ended up being 12 feet off the ground because for some reason we needed up in the tree, and they have a ladder and stuff there at the pump house and all that's on rack on the side, and we use that ladder to get up in the tree. And it's like a 14-foot ladder, and it's like when we put it up before we could get up in the tree, there was only like 2 steps that was above that tree branch.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that branch is 12 feet off the ground.
So now this wasn't an area that at some point had been logged off and regrown. You still had original, basically, or really ancient, huge trees here.
Yeah, it was. We're talking, that tree is probably 60 feet tall or so.
Mm-hmm.
But that happened to be the lowest branch on that tree. There was a lot more once you got up to that point, but That was the lowest one.
I'm just trying to picture the woods here if you're talking about like a bunch of scrub trees, or if you got full-size trees there, or what kind of a forest we're talking about exactly.
Yeah, that was a mixed woods. When we got Christmas trees, you always went down around Portland Lake because that's where all the spruces and pines and stuff was at.
Uh-huh.
But then you had oaks and walnuts and everything else mixed in on, most of the cedars and the pines and stuff were on like the north side of the lake, and the others was on the south side. The lake wasn't real wide, but it was kind of long.
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking it's probably only maybe 100 yards wide, but it was probably more than a little over a quarter of a mile, a third of a mile long.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't a real big lake that they got the water from, but it was pretty deep.
Right.
And it had
Enough for
natural,
a small town, that's for sure.
yeah, it had natural springs that fed it.
Okay.
But so like I said, she turns around and she points over there, and I turn around and look, and probably about 1.5 feet or so above that branch, there's these two red glowing orbs there. And as soon as I saw that, it was like a shot, like you'd shocked me and everything. And I grabbed her by the waist and pulled her off the car. And I'm trying to get Sharon and Mike to get in the car. This is a 2-door, so it takes a little longer to get in there.
Right.
And
how far away was the tree now where the eyes were from where you guys were sitting? You estimate?
Oh, at least 100 yards.
So it's a long ways away, and you're still seeing these weird red glowing things off in the darkness. Was there anything over there to reflect the light at all? I mean, was there any light source that it could have been reflecting?
No. The only lights that was in this whole area was the pole there at the pump house.
Right above you guys, basically.
And at the caretaker's house for the sportsman's club, which was over a quarter mile. They started giving me flack about getting in the car, and then until I got Michael to see where I was pointing, and as soon as he seen that, he was kind of strange. He was real big chicken about a lot of things that he really shouldn't have been chicken about, and then some of the things that he should have been scared of wasn't. But once he seen it, then he started helping shove everybody in the car. We got everybody in the car. I get the car started, and I take off and start out throwing gravel and then back off the throttle. And I start going, and this thing keeps coming toward us.
So wait. When did it start coming toward you?
Oh, while I was trying to get them, their attention to get in the car, it had ducked under the tree right as I started to turn around again, and it started coming toward us.
Oh, Jesus. So even 100 yards away, if it's like that big, it could get there fairly quick. No wonder you're in a rush to get them in the car.
And that was the thing. Until we actually got moving and all, it really didn't move that fast at first. And then, once Mike seen the red things coming, and he started helping shove everybody in the car, got in the car, started the car up, go take off throwing gravel, and back off the throttle. And I got 3 girls in the car screaming, and then Michael, who's screaming like a girl in my arm. Luckily, I'm one of the people that don't panic when the shit hits the fan. After it's all over, that's when I freak.
Guilty, that's me too.
So we're getting going, and this thing's probably about halfway across that distance as we get to the point across from where it would have been straight across from us on the road if we were in the car there.
Good Lord.
So then it realizes it's going to have to go a little faster, and it starts coming toward us and going faster. And I'm sitting here trying to keep picking up speed without throwing gravel and all.
Fishtailing and losing control.
And, and this thing catches up, and it's running behind us. And it gets close enough, it pops both hands down on the trunk of the car and is looking in the window. And I'm sitting here dividing my attention between the rearview mirror, looking at this thing in the face and eyes, and the road, and it kind of backfired on him because when he put his weight on the back of the car, it helped the car dig in and start to go faster.
How fast were you going at the point where he caught up with you guys?
About 30.
Wow. Okay, so he was moving. He caught up with you when you were going 30.
Yeah.
And then he managed to grab onto the back of the car. Now, if my memory serves from the last time you were telling me about this, this is like a couple mile long straightaway. So
Yep.
you had some time to pick up some speed and get away from him. But apparently he was still so damn fast, he managed to catch up to you before you could get that.
Yeah. I was up to about 30 miles an hour when he threw his hands down on the trunk. And it actually started helping me pick up speed a bit because I could press a little harder on the pedal without it trying to throw gravel. So it kind of backfired on him. I think he figured it out too, because after a little bit, he raised his hands up off of the trunk. And
what does hands look like?
Like a professional baseball player's outfielder's glove, with the strings cut so that they're not holding
in between.
Yep. I mean, huge hands.
Huge. Were they
huge?
Like, proportional huge too, or was it just?
Yeah, this thing, like I said, we're talking about something that's probably 13 and a half, 14 foot tall.
Good God. So this, we're talking about something that's probably like weighing close to a ton.
Probably.
Could you see its fingernails or anything?
Yeah, it had nails. The closest thing I can think of is like the nails that they put on the people in the vampire movies. They're not quite claws, but then they're not, straight regular fingernails either.
Were they black like that? Because usually the vampire fingernails, they always make them black.
No. I think these were kind of like an off yellow or something. I don't remember for sure, but
yeah, I suppose it wasn't something you were focusing on with all the other things that were going on. Well, if he was that close, did you get a look at his face through the back window?
Oh, very good.
And how cute was that? Now, he was what color was he? You think?
He was either a real dark brown or a real dark gray. He was some dark color.
Okay.
And that night it was it was cloudy out, and the moon was out. You could tell in the clouds where the moon was, but there wasn't really any moonlight or anything. Right. Like I said, this started off I was parked under a really bright street light.
Right. And you got white gravel that you're running across.
Yeah. And
the other thing is, I know from experience too, it could be total cloud cover. If there's a moon behind it, it'll cause moon glow, so that'll actually light everything anyway. It just won't be as bright.
Yeah, that gravel road, it looked like it was lit up like a runway at a airport. I mean, I didn't realize till we got to the blacktop I hadn't turned my headlights on.
Which also says something about how scared you were. So the only things you were seeing that were lit up really well was this white crushed gravel and those big red eyes that were staring at you through the window.
And
what does his face look like to you?
You've got a thing on your site, the pictures, which actually is what got us into contact, that is as close as you can get without a camera of him. And
except the only difference being the one you saw was brown and his hair was a little bit shorter.
Yep. The hair that was hanging off his arms was maybe 4 to 6 inches or so.
Mm-hmm.
And the tufts around the face were shorter than what is on that picture. But other than that, they looked almost the same. And I know people's going to argue, and like Barnum says, they don't got no D-cell battery shoved up their butt, that thing's eyes glowed. It wasn't eye shine.
Yeah.
They glowed. Because when I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing its eyes, they were burned into me. I'm looking at a red cornea and a deeper red pupil.
And then you hear that in a lot of the tribal legends, especially where they say, well, we've got two kinds around, the good ones and the bad ones. Well, how can you tell them apart? Well, the bad ones have the red eyes.
Yeah, I mean, this thing was screaming against the back window. But like I said, I didn't get figured out that I was helping it gain purchase, so it lifted off the car
Mhm.
and was chasing. And I'm actually, when it stood up and was running and staying with the car, I'm looking at its knees that are right about level with the trunk lid.
Oh my God. So keep in mind, folks, that's 4 feet up. His knees are 4 feet up. Extrapolate height from there.
And I'm getting it going faster. We're going faster. And he comes up and he slams his hands and all down on the trunk lid again. At this point, I look down, I'm doing about 45 miles an hour and it's keeping up with me.
Jesus. Man, it's like at this point, you wish you had a rear-mounted cannon on the damn car or something. What do you do in a situation like that?
Yeah, that would have been a good thing to have, one of James Bond's cars right about then with the machine guns in the back.
Well, brother, after I saw mine when I was only 10, I kept thinking about things like that the whole time I was at teenage years. I was like, is there some way that I can build like a flamethrower into the trunk of my car or something? No, but I'm sorry to sidetrack you. Okay, so this damn thing has got you like up close to 45 miles an hour, and he's still trying to slam on the trunk and grab onto you.
Yes, he's got it. He's got his hands on the trunk again, and his face down, looking in the mirror. The guy in the back seat, he's got the two in the two holding them down, and then the girl I was with, she's practically got her face on her knees screaming, and then I got my cousin Michael, who's pounding me on the arm the whole time and screaming like a girl, going. So it was very loud in that car.
Well, and probably a good thing it was, because then you didn't have to hear so much of the thing outside the car screaming at you, which would have been equally as horrible.
You could hear it over them.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
But so like I said, I'm at about 45 miles an hour. The second time it plops its hands down on the trunk. Not quite as far up on the trunk as it did the last time, and still gaining speed. Now we're probably a mile down the road from where I was parked at the start of this. Halfway down the road.
Right.
And as I start gaining a little more speed, his hands fell out, started sliding down the trunk. His hands came off the back of the trunk when I was doing almost 50.
God.
And I started pulling away from him. So that thing could run almost 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, keep this in mind, folks. The next time you think you're going to pull a prank on Bigfoot and run away from him.
And I got pulled away from him far enough that I got to where I didn't see him anymore. And when you go from that, my road goes straight for 2 miles, and then it goes through an S turn and goes straight out to the main road. And like I said, that side of the road was the sportsman's place, and that was a smooth field with the grass kept mowed, everything. I didn't make the S turn. I cut across. I took out the S turn part, went straight across the grass. Got to the main road. We turned on the main blacktop road, and that's when I realized I didn't have my headlights on the whole time. So all this is going on with no lights.
Mm-hmm.
And in that car, they'd used radium paint for the speedometers and everything.
Right.
So the dashboard glowed even if the lights weren't on.
Right.
So that's why I can tell how fast I was going, because they glowed. But so there wasn't, and I don't see any way that there could have been enough light for it to be a reflection, and you're looking at eye shine. This thing's eyes glowed.
Right.
I know that bear in them, and I was going to say, no, that ain't. But then they've took and found a fish this past year in the ocean that has orange, and it glows.
Yeah.
And it has glowing eyes. Just the eyes are a darker orange than the body, but they all glow.
Yeah, there's lots
eyes
of sea fish that have bioluminescence of different kinds, so that's totally within the realms of the possibility. It's just kind of a weird adaptation for something that's sort of hominid ape-like, if you're thinking along the lines of, "Ooh, it's a normal animal."
Yeah.
I don't think that. So at what point did you actually lose this thing? There must have been somebody terrified enough to be watching out the back window. When did it give up chasing you?
I think I was probably had pulled pretty close to about almost a quarter mile from it when I think it slowed down or stopped, because then I couldn't see it. Very shortly I couldn't see it in the mirror anymore. So I think it figured out it wasn't going.
Yes.
No, I lost it before I decided I was cutting the S.
Okay.
I hadn't seen it for a bit, but I wasn't in the mood to slow down.
Yeah. Oh, let's slow down and see if he's still following. Oh, here he comes again. Not.
Nope. But it's like, we're vacating the premises in the most expeditious as possible.
Yeah. Exit stage left instantly.
Yep.
That's where I went when I saw mine too. Man, I was so glad I was at the top of a really steep, dangerous, long sledding hill with a sled right next to me. Because that's all I wanted to do was get the hell out.
Yeah.
No interest in looking at him for 1 second longer than I had to. Well, God, that's terrifying enough. What did the other people in the car have to say about this? Were they all just like freaking out or quiet, or was anybody talking about it? Or
the girls were crying. Like I said, Michael, he's freaking out right along with the girls.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that was with Carol, I don't even remember his name. He was the only one that was, he was kind of like me. He was pretty much, get the things taken care of. He started shaking and everything after we're away. We know we're away, and it's like, okay, let's take everybody home.
Yeah.
And other than, everybody kind of going, what the hell was that? And everything. There wasn't really a bunch of chit chat and talk and chatter on the way back home,
right.
Other than, okay, well, let's, take everybody home.
So at that point, nobody had any idea what the hell that thing was that had chased you off off the lake there that night.
No, like I said, me and my cousins had always been told, you don't go out, the Hank will get you. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard other parents down there, around town, if you stayed over, you got to be in the house before, dark, or at least in the front yard in the light, or the Hank will get you. So I know other people, but I don't know if the other kids that we were with at the time had heard that or not, for sure. And I know it was probably, I think, around 71 or 72 before I'd even heard of Bigfoot.
Right.
And that's like, we were up here, and it's like every other week we would go to the Speedway Cinema, which is the closest movie theater to us, and go to a movie. They'd have like a short film and then your feature. And they happened to play the Patterson Gimlin film as the short before one of the main features. And that's the first time I ever heard anything like Bigfoot or anything like that, because we were never really told or kind of described what the Hank was.
Right. They just left it. This is this nebulous
it's got
monster.
Glowing red eyes, and it'll get you.
It's got glowing red eyes. Other than that, we're not telling you what it looks like, and it'll get you. Well, and as both of us know, the Type 4, whether the northern Wendigo variety that I saw or the southern Genoskwa variety that you saw, don't look shit like Patty in the Patterson Gimlin film.
Oh, hell no.
So it wouldn't have helped you much to have seen that thing at that point anyway. It'd probably still be totally confused.
No. The eyes and the teeth were the two things that kept, my attention. When this thing opened its mouth and I saw its teeth, the thought that went through my head was, my God, that thing's got the teeth of the abominable snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
I'm sorry for laughing again, but every time you say that, it cracks me up because I remember when I saw mine, I thought it was like a bear trap. Its teeth looked like a bear trap, and then and then when you told me that the abominable snowman on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I was like, damn, you're right. They kind of remind me of that too. But yeah, just a real vicious array of teeth, right?
Yep, definitely carnivorous. It wasn't, this definitely was not an omnivore.
Yeah.
This was straight carnivore.
Up killer carnivore, no question about it.
Yep, no questions about it. None at all. But yeah.
So now after this whole horrific thing happened and nobody really had it, nobody in the car apparently had a clue what this thing might have been.
Nope.
You took like some of the folks home and then you went back home?
Yep. We took the two girls and Carol's date. I took them all home, and we got home. I think we were home like 5 minutes early. So if we hadn't booked out then, we might have been late getting it home, got in trouble for that. But it's like we got home just before we were supposed to be home, and Granddaddy was standing there at the door when we got
to see if you were going to make the curfew.
No, actually, I think he would either been awake because Grandma was still in the bedroom, and I think he'd either been there laying awake listening for us, or he woke up when he heard the car. Of course, I had a hush drush on it, but it wasn't real loud, but it was louder than the other cars around there.
Right. And plus, he was probably listening to hear for when you were coming back.
Yeah, knowing Granddaddy, he didn't have to go to work the next day, so he may have been, laying there listening for us to come in.
Right.
But he met us at the door, and it's like he took one look at us when we opened the screen door, and he said, "Y'all went out to that damn lake, didn't you? You get in here."
Wow. How could he tell that fast?
I don't know whether we were just white as sheets or what, because we done decided we ain't telling nobody about this shit.
Yeah, no
we didn't
kidding.
know, the thought of Bigfoot never entered my mind.
No.
Like I said, I'd just heard of Bigfoot a few years before, and this thing didn't look anything like Patty, so Bigfoot never entered the thing in my mind about it.
Yeah.
When he said that, I thought, uh-oh. I bet you Granddaddy's gonna get a belt after us for this one.
Uh-oh.
And we got a good chewing on about it and a big long talk.
Did he tell you anything more about what the critter is at this point, or did he just lecture you about being reckless and foolish?
Basically, I just remember getting lectured really, really hard and, getting our butts chewed out.
Yeah. And
then I don't remember, during the conversation or whatever went on, but ended up, I think we told Granddaddy that had its hands on the back of my trunk, and his eyes got real big.
Jesus.
And he made me go outside and show him, and I got these two perfect handprints right up close to the glass, and then there's two handprints that's just slightly behind it, and they go sliding off the trunk lid. And Granddaddy had put on his overalls, and he pulled his handkerchief out and wiped all the dust off the back of my car.
Huh.
And made me swear on my mother's life that I would never tell my dad about it.
Wow.
And when we seen the Patterson-Gimlin film, and I was talking about it, I'm like, yeah, that's real. My dad's like, there ain't no such damn thing. And of course, I'd watched the Monster Quest and all the shows about Bigfoot and everything. Of course, none of them looked anything like what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's, I don't know why you mess with that stuff. It ain't real. My mom says, no, it ain't real. And my mom grew up on a farm that was almost the same size as what my dad's farm was.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them, and it was out in the sticks of Kentucky, and they had a hell of a lot more woods.
Right.
And never heard anything like that. And it just so happened there was something that wasn't long after that my mom called and I needed to come home early for some reason. I don't remember why, but I never told anybody about that until I told you.
All right. And by the way, I'm honored that you would actually be willing to share your story with me and through me with the other people that are going to hear it now. I really deeply appreciate it. I've been looking for decades to try and find somebody else that's seen a type 4, either Wendigo or a Genoskwa, and has actually survived to talk about it. So for me, this is like very reassuring. Like I was joking with you when you first contacted me, the survivability of Wendigo encounters now went from 1% to 2%. So,
yeah, if we'd been on bicycles or something, we'd have been toast.
yeah, you're not out running something that tall on a bicycle. Forget it. You better be really fast.
But now that I think about it, I don't ever remember anybody night fishing at either of the lakes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we used to go out and kind of have like little parties out on gravel roads on the creeks and stuff all the time. But nobody ever went down there to the lake. There was people go out fishing at the lake during the daytime, and they had like 3 or 4 picnic tables and stuff out there. But I don't ever remember, the times that we went frog gigging up there, there was never anybody up there but us. I don't remember anybody ever fishing up there at night.
Man, that's creepy. So your grandpa made you swear to never tell your dad. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of, I didn't think much about it then, but as I got older, of course, at that point, I never really got that big into Bigfoot. I saw the movie. I'm like, yeah, I told my dad, yeah, that's not a costume, Dad. That's something real.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like I said, he had his thing, and my mom always said it too. But that was burned into my mind. But I thought about it later. When I got disabled, I'm stuck at home all the time. I started cyber squatching.
Uh-huh.
And I found out a lot of things that actually during my time, I've probably been around them a lot more than I realized and just never seen one.
I think there's a lot of people that have spent practically their whole lives out in the woods and have been near them a lot of times and never realized they were.
Yep. But yeah, that was a very, very scary. It's like when we got back and had dropped the girls and everybody off. That's when I got the real bad case, the jitters and everything. After we got home and out of the car, and after Annie started chewing on it, that's when I got my real case of the jitters and everything. But I prior to that, I never thought of Bigfoot really.
So you were like, how old when this happened then? 16?
16.
I think you're about the same age that I was when I had my second encounter, and that was when I decided that I had to find out about him whether I wanted to or not, because avoiding being in the woods wasn't working.
Yeah, I've seen, we'll probably talk about this more in the other time, but since I've never went out in the woods and looked for them
Mm-hmm.
or anything. All my run-ins was off chance, like I told, this story, you are the 7th person that I know of that's living that has heard that story. The 6 of us that were there and you.
Wow.
And now the listeners when they get to hear it. So at this point, to my knowledge, because I don't think anybody, I know that my cousin didn't. I don't know if the girls and the other guy ever told anybody or not. But so to the best of my knowledge, there's only 7 people in the audience after they hear this that'll even know of this story.
So to get back to how you actually contacted me and got this whole thing going, it was because I had been working with a guy who does photorealistic computer renderings of It's pretty much anything, actually. You can do it with forensic type stuff to make, mug shots for who are the police looking for and stuff like that, just off a description, because you have the available equipment to do it with. And he's using sort of the same thing and trying to make mock-ups of Bigfoot. And he had found out that I had actually seen one of these Type 4s and had gotten a pretty good look at it. And he wanted to add that to his library of pictures. So he and I spent about 6 weeks working back and forth between descriptions and renderings that he was sending to me. And I'll put together a montage of all the different versions he sent for me to take a look at, just so the audience can take a look at it when they're looking at the show here. Yeah. But it got to the point where it got really damn close, and when he started getting them close, it was getting terrifying. It was really getting tough for me to look at him. He'd send the thing to me, I'd take a look at it, and the last one that was the closest, I actually had like a primal fear reaction to it. Hair on the back of my neck stood up, started hyperventilating, heart started racing, got up, went outside for about 10 minutes to calm down. And, when the picture affects you like that, it's getting pretty close. Yep. So, believe it or not, it still needs to be modified a little bit more. And I'm just about to the point now where it doesn't horrify me to look at it, so I'm ready to take another crack at it. But this had been posted on my Bigfoot group, Montana Bigfoot Project, and then someone saw it there and posted it to the Bigfoot Outlaws group. And then you ended up seeing it on there, and that's how you saw it, and then your reaction was, "Oh my God, somebody else has seen one of these things."
Yeah, I'd been, trying to find pictures of Bigfoot that looked anything like I had seen.
Right.
And I'd seen a couple because, Bear and them, on Bigfoot Outlaws had, been describing stuff, and I'm like, they're not describing really what I saw.
Yeah. Well, ones and twos don't look like a Wendigo or a Genoskwa. They just don't.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't a dog man of any kind. It didn't have a muzzle.
No snout. Yeah. Flap face.
But yeah, that picture that I saw on Bigfoot Outlaws, or that rendering, is really damn close. I think you've showed me a couple of the other ones, and it's like, I think you showed the ones that's been done new far, and it's like that one was the last one.
Yeah.
And the one that was right before it, the teeth that I saw were right on that one. And it's like, basically, if you took the teeth out of that one and put it in the original one I saw, and then shortened the hair around the face a little bit, was what I saw.
Yeah. And again, probably my guess is with the one you saw, and it was at night and it was in the dark, so hard to tell. But it probably was a brown, or one of those colors.
Yeah, it was a dark color.
Yeah.
It was really dark color.
Yeah. For that area, that just makes a whole lot more sense than something running around being like a medium gray or a white color. You're not going to blend all that well if you're huge and you're that color. Unless you're up in the subarctic where the Wendigo live. So the one I saw, of course, like I said, longer fur and whitish grayish, are at least some of these things out there. They're incredibly dangerous, and you need to not screw around with.
So make sure that you're kind to everyone. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't be mean to people if you don't have to be. Don't flip off the mountain giant. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puckwudgie. And for God's sake, whatever you do not hug the Wookiee. See you later, folks.